The Mercedes team and team boss Toto Wolff have had a rough start to the season. He made some pretty big claims last season, but a lot of what he said hasn't come true. The performance of his team and his actions have raised questions about whether he's still the right man for the job, or if someone else should take the reins. Today, we're gonna have a look at what Wolff himself has to say about his position, what the F1 pundits think of his performance, and whether we think it's time for him to step aside or if he deserves more time. Let's get started. I think the place to start is with a little Toto Wolff history lesson. He started life as an investment banker and businessman, but always had a passion for motor racing, and his lucrative day job helped him pay for that. He competed in plenty of GT racing competitions in the 90s and early noughties, as well as endurance racing. He even picked up a few wins along the way, proving himself a skilled racing driver. His experience in open-wheel racing, like Formula 1, is more limited though, having only competed in Formula Ford in Austria and Germany. Still impressive, but Formula Ford is the entry level to open-wheel racing. Not every F1 team boss has an incredible racing history though, including many of the current grid. It was in 2009 that Wolff decided to dip his feet into Formula 1, buying a large share in the Williams Formula 1 team, earning himself a seat on the board of directors. In 2012, he was voted as executive director of the board. With all his experience as an investor, this is where Toto excels. He knows how to make companies make money. And even though Formula 1 is a sport, each team is a company. His CV to sit on a board of directors is as good as anyone's. Wolff wanted more than just a seat in the director's box, he wanted a seat in the garage. So in 2013, Wolff left Williams F1 to become an executive director of the Mercedes Formula 1 team, with his business partner, René Berger, becoming non-executive director. In addition to joining the team as managing partner, he also acquired 30% of Mercedes-Benz Grand Prix Limited, with a further 10% held by Niki Lauda and 60% by the parent company. 2013 was a transitional year for Formula 1. The sport had been using 2.4-litre V8 since 2006, and 2013 was the last season they were in use before the switch to the turbocharged 1.6-litre V6 engines that are used today. There was also a large number of changes in the aerodynamic regulations happening at the end of the season. 2014 would herald a completely new era for Formula 1. That year that Toto Wolff joined Mercedes, you had people like Ross Brawn and Paddy Lowe at the team. People with a massive amount of experience in the sport who were the driving force behind the beginning of Mercedes' dominance in 2014. They were the ones who set Wolff up for success. Wolff's business savvy helped steer Mercedes down the path of continued success though, being the focal point for the engineers who had learnt their trade under Brawn and Lowe. His success as an investor carried over. The leadership skills were obviously very transferable. So, up until now, Wolff has never had to struggle for much in Formula 1. He came into a team that was set up to win and did an excellent job keeping them winning. But now they aren't winning, his abilities are being questioned. When you look elsewhere on the grid, the team principals have decades of experience in Formula 1. They know the good times, but they also know the bad. Wolff hasn't got that. With his team struggling, his star driver on the brink of leaving, and his every call being questioned, it's only natural that people start asking if he's the right man for the job. He has answered those questions recently. I really enjoy being the team leader of this team. I think I can make my contribution. But if one day I come to that conclusion, or if people close to me tell me I'm not contributing, then I'll consider passing the baton to someone else. I wouldn't be ashamed of that. Then I would criticize from the sidelines, from a TV screen, and know better than everyone else. But until then, I think I'll keep enjoying it. Clearly Toto doesn't plan on stepping down as Silver Arrow's boss anytime soon, but as a 30% shareholder, it isn't completely his choice. Ineos and Mercedes are the other two big shareholders, and if they decide his leadership or his actions were no longer suitable for the team, they could make the call to have him removed. The repercussions from such a decision would pit the major shareholders of the team against each other, which would never end well. If that were to happen, it would be done in a far gentler manner than, for example, how Binotto was fired from Ferrari over the winter. So how did we come to this point? The boss of a team that had the longest Constructors' Championship run in the history of the sport, having his position questioned after a season and 2 races away from the front of the sport is not normal. But the actions of Toto Wolff haven't been normal either. Last season, a lot of stuff the Austrian was doing was overlooked. Using the team radio to apologise to his drivers for the job the team had done making the car wasn't a great look, especially when one of them was consistently finishing in the top 5. That isn't a disaster by any means, but Wolff made it seem like one and blamed the rest of his team for it. Then there was the team principals meeting where he went completely off the rails and accused the rest of the bosses of forming a conspiracy against him to try and hurt their own drivers. The whole thing was shown to the world by Netflix and was a big embarrassment for the team. But last season was just meant to be a blip. This was Mercedes after all, they couldn't get it wrong forever, so these things were overlooked. This season though, we've had more blaming of the team and engineers, undermining his own design team by bringing back old team members, the loss of large numbers of senior staff, and an apology letter to the fans that still hasn't been explained. Oh, and the small fact of Lewis Hamilton not signing a new contract, despite Toto insisting he will for the entirety of last season. Let's start with Lewis. Just last season, we were told that he would be with the team until he retired, and that the new contract he was definitely signing would include the chance to stay on with the team even after finishing as a driver. Probably in a role similar to the one Niki Lauda served at the team, or that Helmut Marko does at Red Bull now. Crazy numbers of $100 million a year were being thrown around, and considering driver contracts aren't included in the cost cap, it could have happened. But Hamilton doesn't need money. If he's staying in Formula 1, it is to win an 8th driver's title, and clearly he's questioning whether Mercedes can deliver that. He'll be asking himself, is Toto the guy to turn this team around? If Lewis isn't signing a new contract, then what does that say about Toto? When this year's Mercedes car, the W14, failed to show improvements over last year's, Hamilton claimed that the Mercedes technical team ignored his guidance on the development direction. Wolff's response to this was to reveal that the Silver Arrows would be pursuing a new philosophy going forwards. After just one race, Toto threw in the towel on a car that had hit the development goals he set over the winter. David Coulthard has been surprised by Mercedes' knee-jerk reaction to a poor performance in Bahrain, claiming the team's astronomical success over recent years has left them unable to deal rationally with failure. To me, it's a case of success being a lousy teacher. When you're winning, everyone's patting each other on the back and thinking, we're brilliant. Mercedes had such a clear dominance for several years. Now they sort of settle into difficulties, and let's remind ourselves that the year before, 2021, it went right down to the wire that they could have won the World Championship. So very quickly, the finger pointing has started. This is something else everyone is picking up on outside the team. Toto swears there's no blame culture in the team, but every week in interviews and on the team radio, he's apologising for the work his team has done. David continued, Toto has always been a very heart-on-sleeve, open approach, but when you're in a difficult situation like this, sometimes you've got to hold back a little bit, because if the leader is not so sure, then what does that do all the way down through the company? After one race? Why do you have to apologise after one race? Give it half a season before doing that. David has straight away picked up on Toto's lack of experience. He hasn't ever had to struggle and suffer in Formula 1. This sport always proves that success isn't permanent. There is always someone else who figures something out quicker or works harder than you eventually. Toto has been all over the place since the start of the season, constantly contradicting himself. He told us Hamilton would sign a new contract soon and then in an interview a week later said he should look at moving to another team if he wants to win a championship. He said that Mercedes don't make knee-jerk reactions in the apology letter to the fans and then throws the car in the bin after one race. Losing is hard. Everyone knows that from first-hand experience. But after 8 years of almost complete dominance, Toto Wolff seems to have forgotten that. He did an outstanding job while the team were on top. No one can deny him that. But can he get Mercedes back to the front of the grid? If his management behind the scenes is anything like his personality in front of the camera at the moment, then the answer has to be no, doesn't it? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. And until next time, drive safe and bye for now.